morning has just ticked over to afternoon here in Italy, and you are very welcome to a very warm Monza national circuit. It is the home to round 12 of the 2018 TCR Europe Series, and the crowd steadily filling this Monza track, ready for a whole afternoon of racing. We've already had a couple of the support races, but next on the bill will be TCR Europe, our second race of the weekend after a thrilling contest yesterday. Track and air temperatures similar to what they were last night, but just look at that humidity figure, 68%. It really does feel very sticky here in northern Italy, and it will be quite uncomfortable inside the cars for the next half an hour or so. Pit lane has just opened. We do have a slight delay because of an incident in one of the earlier support races. So we're running about 5 minutes behind schedule on this Sunday. And we are expecting all 28 cars that are entered for the weekend to take their places on the starting grid. There are the two Subarus, mixed fortunes for them yesterday. Retirement for one, a finish for the other. But at least they're both here after the last-minute dramas for Roberto Russo, getting his license sorted out. But as I say, 28 cars entered. There is one of the Subarus, car number 3. It's Cosimo Barberini in the white car. And his teammate Roberto Russo, brother of Renato, who runs the Top Run team, in the blue car. Roberto Russo in the number 77 car, there he is. Also, one Alfa Romeo competing on home ground. Rather robust performance from the single Alfa Romeo, that of Fabrizio Giovanardi yesterday. But of the 28 entries, 8 car brands represented here in Italy. Alfa Romeo, Audi, Cupra, Honda, Hyundai, Peugeot, Subaru, and Volkswagen. One DSG car on the entry list. Not that particular Audi, but the similar car with a DSG gearbox of Giovanni Altoe, car number 63. And barring disaster, he will clinch the DSG trophy here in Italy this weekend. Another trophy that we've hardly mentioned this year will also be awarded this afternoon after this race. The TCR Swiss Trophy, new for 2018. A mixture of TCR Europe, TCR Italy, and TCR Germany events. To be eligible for the title, you had to compete in at least 2 rounds, with 3 of the rounds being TCR Europe, Zandvoort, Assen, and here in Monza. And there are only 2 drivers who can win the TCR Swiss Trophy. That's Attila Tasci, who is currently 5 points ahead of Mikel Azcona. But of course, as well as the TCR Swiss Trophy, we've the small matter of TCR Europe to worry about this weekend. It's the penultimate race weekend. We all wrap up proceedings in Barcelona towards the end of October, and things looking very interesting in terms of the Drivers' Championship. We'll look at the figures as per usual in a moment, but the headline is that Mikel Azcona took the lead yesterday after qualifying, then extended it. So Azcona now leads Dusan Borkovic by 10 points with the race victory yesterday in race 1, elevating Jean Calvenet up into 3rd place in the driver's standings. He's 34 points behind Azcona, but there are 80 points still up for grabs. 5 points for pole position in Barcelona and 25 points for each of the 3 races remaining. We mentioned Fabrizio Giovanardi. There he is in the Italian flag-liveried Alfa Romeo, and certainly getting involved in the action, I think it's fair to say. Yesterday, Fabrizio Giovanardi, a touring car driver of the old school, drives more or less permanently with his elbows out. And Jens Renaud Muller, I was talking to earlier on today, and definitely contact between the pair. If you were with us for yesterday's race, you'd have seen Muller go off into the gravel at the entry to the Ascari chicane, and Giovanardi definitely having a slight hand in it, according to Jens Renaud Muller. So the cars forming up on the grid. That is the man on pole position. That is Francisco Abreu in the single Peugeot 308 that's here. No Julien Brichet, remember. But Francisco Abreu, because of the reversed grid top 10, 10th quickest in qualifying means he's on pole position for race 2. There he is at the right of your screen in the number 23 Peugeot, the blue car. And then tucked away behind the safety car is a man who had extremely poor luck in yesterday's race, Benjamin Lessen from Belgium, a regular in the WTCR this year, having been replaced in that particular championship for the Chinese rounds, and so a last-minute addition to the entry list here in Monza. Lessen taking over the Autodisc Racing by THX Honda Civic. He is second on the grid, and unlucky to be one of the first casualties in yesterday's race, a puncture under braking for the Parabolica right at the start of the race. Saw Lessen go head-on into the barriers, brought out the safety car for the first of 2 appearances, and Lessen just shaking his head in disbelief. But the interesting comments from Lessen to one of the touring car websites overnight, that he feels that he was quite surprised by the level of competition in TCR Europe. So whether he thought he was just going to arrive and dominate proceedings, I don't know, but that's certainly not been the case. There is the man I was talking about, chatting to Jens Renaud Moller earlier, and very philosophical about some of the issues he's had this year. He's on row 2 of the grid. He'll start just behind Francisco Abreu, and Jens was saying he's not had really good starts recently, had a dreadful start yesterday, and the team was wondering if there was air in the hydraulic system which was causing the car to bog down. But also he was saying that there's a lot of grip, very abrasive track here at Monza, and he's just wondering if he'd heated his front tyres up maybe a little too much, and he had too much grip away from the start. Stefano Camini, the bonnet up. There is Stefano. And a mystery, something going on. The bonnet shouldn't, of course, be open at this stage. And the team taking a look at a potential problem in Stefano Camini's car. The guys from Yas who build the car are there as well. We move on to row 3 then. Dusan Borkovic slipped down from leading the championship, coming to Italy, now in second place, 10 points behind Mikel Azcona. Dusan Borkovic frustrated yesterday, unable to get past Maxime Potti. And there is Potti's car, the Come To You Volkswagen, alongside Borkovic on the grid. And one of the issues we had yesterday, as we expected, was 28 cars all heading for the right-left chicane at the end of the start-finish straight, turns 1 and 2. And all sorts of issues on the first lap. Not the carnage we expected, to be fair, but all sorts of weird and wonderful lines through the corner. Some cars taking to the grass, some cars going straight on down the escape road, the slip road at the chicane. And some suffering. Josh Files, another driver I was chatting to in the paddock this morning. Josh Files finished on the podium yesterday, and he's brutally honest and said he really didn't expect to be there. The Hondas are on the rev limiter twice here at Monza, on the back straight going down towards the entry to the Parabolica, fairly briefly, but for a long old time coming down the start-finish straight. You can hear the Hondas hit the rev limiter for probably 100, maybe even 200 meters as they head down towards the chicane before they hit hard braking. So Attila Tashi will be alongside Josh Files, his teammate, in the Hell Energy Racing with KCMG Hondas. So that's row number 4. And row number 5, a reverse of the front row yesterday. Mikel Azcona, our Drivers' Championship leader. There he is, Spain's next great hope in touring car racing. Mikel Azcona, as I said yesterday, has had an unfortunate run of finishing second in the various championships in the Leons, the Clios, the TT Cup. Is this the year that he breaks his duck and actually wins the championship? Let's get confirmation, though, of the starting grid. Row 1, Abreu on pole alongside Lessen. Row 2, Moller and Camini, maybe. Row 3, Borkovic and Potti. Row 4, Files and Tashi, as you just saw. Row 5 on the grid is Azcona and Venet, is the rerun of yesterday's front row. Peter Terting and Stefano Tavano on row 6. Row 7 is Saphag from Argentina, Baldan from Italy, Danny Cruz and Danny Nage, Paulson and Barr alongside each other, Chris Richard and Ollie Taylor, Giovanardi and Barberini, Davidovski and Stefanovski, and then towards the back of the grid, Martin Rieber and Capillari and Giovanni Altoe in the DSG Audi alongside Roberto Russo in the Subaru. The reason that Russo's on the back of the grid, he didn't take part in qualifying because of that license mix-up. And so he takes his position right at the back of the grid. Well, Stefano Comini is underway. So whatever the problem was has been fixed. But the bonnet was open until very late. So will the stewards be looking at that situation later on? Certainly there was a shrug of the shoulders from Stefano Comini, so something was going on. And we don't yet know what. This is the corner I was talking about earlier. The right-hander followed by the left at the chicane. And what on earth will happen here? Hopefully we'll escape serious incident as we did yesterday. But remember, with 2 races in the weekend, generally speaking, race 1 is the slightly more cautious of the 2, and I say slightly advisedly. Race 2, of course, you don't have to worry so much about re-prepping or repairing the car ready for another race. And so we could see slightly more robust tactics today for race 2, and I'll say no more than that. So then, on our green flag lap, with a slight delay, just ahead of this 12th round of TCR Europe 2018. There is our Drivers' Championship leader in the brightly coloured Cupra, Mikel Azcona, and with Pepe Oriola, who is here. He often comes to the TCR Europe races. Azcona is potentially following in Oriola's footsteps. Oriola competing in WTCR. And what will happen, I wonder, if Azcona does indeed clinch the title at his home race in Barcelona on the 21st of October. So, this classic track at Monza once again plays host to a TCR championship. I remember coming here in 2015 for TCR International's first season. Gianni Morbidelli took a maximum 55 points, 5 points for pole, 25 for each race victory. And the spectacle of, in successive laps, 2, 3, and then 4 cars running abreast down towards the chicane. And Monza, one of the iconic circuits in the world, the 3rd oldest racing circuit in the world, after Brooklands in the UK and Indianapolis in the United States. And there's that Comini. Yes, it is 42. That's Comini having pulled up. Now, is it an electrical issue, I wonder, because the lights were off and then the car came back to life and the lights came back on. So I'm wondering if Comini has an electrical fault in the Honda. He's back in the pack. That's Antonio Rodriguez on the right, who one of the senior personnel at Cupra Racing, former team manager of the Seat Sport WTCC team. Now there is Jean-Carl Venet, who really wants to repeat what Gianni Morbidelli did all those years ago. He's already qualified on pole, 5 points, one race won, 25 points, and really to get back in the hunt for the driver's title, the reigning TCR International champion could do with another victory here in Monza. Of course, the other issue, which I was going to talk about, and that may well have already passed us by, is that Stefano Comini is very much on home ground here. He grew up competing in the various championships here at Monza. He has, I think, by estimates, something like 300 guests here of the Race Republic organization. Comini, though, is in the back of your shot, so he is still moving. But is there a problem with the Honda? He would really love a race victory here at his home event. He lives not so far away. And a victory for Comini, even though he's out of the running for the driver's title, would be exactly what he wants. So the cars making their way round onto the grid. Quite a large crowd here in Monza. They do love their motorsport. And the crowd's filing in from quite early on this morning. Oh no, both the Subarus are in the pit lane. Just when I was saying that things seem to have been turning in the Subaru's favor, they're both in the pit lane. So will they start this race from the pit lane? The race will start without them, though. The green flag waves, so 26 of the 28 cars lining up on the grid. We watch for the lights to go on. There they go, the revs rise. Watch for the start. Abreu gets away cleanly. Not so cleanly as Lesen. That's Borkovic, I think, coming through. Abreu heads the field down towards the chicane. Watch this, watch the lines, watch people possibly taking to the escape road. And I think the stewards will be looking at that, because several cars cutting the corner and indeed giving the positions back. And Comini running slowly. There he is on the right of your screen, going around Curva Grande, and already Stefano Comini in trouble. No such problems for Francisco Abreu. He leads from Benjamin Lesen. Borkovic is already up to third, which is where he wants to be, ahead of Files, Potti. Vernet has made it up already from 10th on the grid to 6th. And sure enough, confirmation on my timing screen that turn 1 is already under investigation. Several cars cutting the corner. Most, I think, have given the positions back. Others straight lining and taking to the escape road. We've not mentioned Ollie Taylor, who's currently second in TCR UK, as that's Davidovski, I think, across the grass at Lesmo. Stefanovski, excuse me. As Borkovic flashes the lights right up behind Benjamin Lesen. And Borkovic knows he really needs to get a move on. He really needs the points to take the initiative away from Mikel Azcona. Down towards the entry to the Parabolica for the first time then. Francisco Abreu still leads ahead of Benjamin Lesen and the very determined Dusan Borkovic. Josh Files tucked up behind Borkovic, and then Vernet has already made up another place. He's passed Potti. Vernet now 5th. So we're on lap 2 then. Tashi alongside Azcona. And this is the scrap for 7th place. They come down to the chicane for the second time. Hard onto the brakes. And it's, oh, thumping across the curbs. That was Borkovic. And Lesen loses out. And look who's got through. Look who's capitalized. Benjamin Lesen running wide through the chicane, and Jean-Carl Vernet having made up something like 3 places in just that one corner. Vernet is now up into 2nd place, just over 1.1 seconds down on our leader Abreu. So it's Abreu, Vernet, Files, Potti, Azcona, Tashi, Borkovic, Terting, Jens Renault Moller, and Lesen has dropped from 2nd to 10th. Behind those 10, Danny Cruz, Reese Barr, Tavano, Baldan, Richard, Taylor, Giovanardi, Reba, Sapag, and Davidovski. That's your top 20. And also, I didn't see why, but Paulsen is in the pits. And another investigation being flagged up. So Borkovic cutting the chicane is under investigation as Potti is going head-to-head with Files for 3rd place. Potti takes 3rd away from Files, who won't be at all pleased about that, as Vernet has a look at Abreu coming down the straight. The Audi, remember, in a league of its own down the straights here at Monza, as Files tries to go around the outside of Maxime Potti. Tashi moves up with them as well. And at the moment, in terms of the Swiss Trophy I mentioned, and I think that Vernet has a look. Yes, indeed he does. He out-dragged. Look at that. The Audi just drives past the Peugeot, and Jean-Carl Vernet, on only the 3rd lap, is already through into the lead of this race, having started from P10 on the grid. Again, some curious lines through the chicane. Oh, and contact Moller again. After going wide yesterday, after touching Fabrizio Giovanardi, this time it was Danny Cruz that made contact. And Borkovic is slow. So we're looking at our leaders once again. So Vernet ahead of Abreu. We just saw Potti, Files and Tashi together. And all Tashi has to do is to... Oh, big, huge slide from Josh Files. I know he likes oversteer, but that was just ridiculous. Yellow flags at turn 2 because of that incident coming out of the chicane. No sign of the safety car as yet, but somebody is off. It's either Cruz or Moller at turn 2. As we're looking at Jean-Carl Venet. Let's look at it again. There is Cruz. There is Moller. Cruz moves across. There's the contact. Cruz goes left, Moller goes right. And safety car is deployed. Safety car will be coming out for the first time in this race while the incident at the chicane is tidied up. So, a breathless first few laps. We're just coming to the end of lap 3, remember, here in Monza. And a bitterly disappointed Stefano Comini. We'll try and find out what happened to him, as with Dusan Borkovic. And the worst possible result for Dusan. The ever-present Andriana in the background. So a DNF for Stefano Comini, a DNF for Dusan Borkovic, all of which means that Mikel Azcona will be a happy man. But happiest of all, I suspect, will be Jean-Carl Venet. He's now on course for the perfect score here at Monza. A possible 55-point haul for Jean-Carl Venet this weekend. We knew that the Audi would be strong here. But the perfect 55-point score will lift him very much back into contention for the driver's title, with only the 2 races at Barcelona remaining. So let's go into slow-mo. Look at the various lines through this corner. Several drivers going straight on, others. Now there is Paulson in the background. Ollie Taylor as well takes the cut, as does Giovanardi, bouncing across the curbs. Now that isn't actually such a good idea, because Danny Nage, you may remember yesterday, another of the drivers in contention for the driver's title. Danny Nage retired and we didn't know why. Talking to the team, he bounced across the curbs at the chicane, caused a lot of damage under the car. The splitter came away and came back up into the engine bay and caused quite a lot of damage. So that going across the curb at the chicane, really, really not such a good idea. There is Altoe. And there is Stefanovski with damage to the car. Now this is the bit that is now under investigation. And indeed, another investigation, that incident that we saw between Jens Renaud Muller and Danny Cruz. So confirmation as that was the puncture, which was the cause of Dusan Borkovic's retirement. I'm no expert on body language, but that didn't look good, did it? So, several incidents already under investigation, including this one. Jens Renaud Muller in the Honda, Danny Cruz in the Cupra, touching there, coming out of the chicane, both cars off, and that's the reason we have the safety car. Cruz, though, continues. So it's Moller, there he is, into the barriers, and so it's Moller's car that will need recovery. Indeed, there it is, already on the back of the low loader. The clock continuing to tick down, but now that at least the car is on the back of the transporter, that can start getting away. And you have to feel sorry for Stian Paulsen. Looking for a points finish after what he said yesterday was a slight mistake from himself, but look, all sorts of disconnected suspension at the back. So again, potentially that caused by running across the and the safety car will be coming in this lap, we've just been told. So safety car lights will be switched off as the car heads down towards the Ascari chicane. And so that message will be getting through to the drivers from their teams. as the Honda of Jens Renaud Muller is taken back to the pits. We will soon be racing once again with probably around 12 minutes or so, plus 1 lap of this race remaining. So just to recap, if you're just joining us, Jean-Carl Venet doing just what he needed to do in just 3 laps. Jean-Carl Venet leads this second race at Monza ahead of Francisco Abreu in the Peugeot, Maxime Potti in the Volkswagen, Josh Files and Attila Tashi 4th and 5th. Mikel Azcona, championship leader 6th, Peter Turting in the Hyundai 7th. Benjamin Lessen, having dropped from 2nd to 10th, has recovered slightly, currently P8. Nicolas Baldan in the Hyundai, the Mira Hyundai is 9th, and Chris Richard in the Target Competition Hyundai is 10th at the moment. Those are the point scoring positions. So into the Ascari chicane then. Safety car lights will be going off shortly. The safety car will then pull away. There we go, lights are off. We will soon be underway once again. Safety car will now put its foot down, get out of the way and get into the pit lane. And then it's down to Jean-Carl Venet to manage this restart. What will his tactics be this time? Yesterday he went early and caught a few people napping. This time he appears to be bunching everybody up. When's he going to go? I would have thought into the Parabolica. Right, there he goes. Jean-Carl Venet puts the hammer down. Abreu goes with him. Potti, Files, Tashi, Azcona, Turting, Lessen, Baldan, Richard. That's your top 10. A little over 11 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining. And down the start-finish straight, Venet just pulls away. Potti, though, right up behind Abreu. Potti just has a little look, but Abreu is on the line. Let's just take a slight look back, and Azcona gets past Tashi. Mikel Azcona, under braking for the chicane, takes 5th place away from Attila Tashi. And again, the chicane catching people out. So, into the second chicane. So, slight change then. .38 has a drive-through penalty. Danny Cruz will be getting a drive-through for that incident with Jens Renaud Muller. So, Danny Cruz currently P11, so he'll be dropping down the order. That means that once again, Fabrizio Giovanardi will be knocking on the door of the points, as will Ollie Taylor, who moves up into 12th place because of that penalty. So Venet's lead, a little over half a second from Abreu, who's coming under pressure from Maxime Potti, who in turn has got Files behind him, holding up Mikel Azcona. Determined, I suspect, to hold Azcona off, do what he can to help his teammate Attila Tashi. But really, I think the driver's title will be a 3-way affair when we leave Italy. Now, Azcona, you have to say, has driven very intelligently this year, by and large. He's settled for points rather than going for an overtake, which might be quite risky as we look at Maxime Potti, who just takes a look up the outside of the Peugeot of Abreu. Onto the brakes now for the chicane. Has Potti got it? Abreu holds the line for the right-hander at the chicane, and indeed hangs on. There is contact between the pair. Potti dives across the inside, but will have to give the position back. Meanwhile, Abreu comes under pressure from Josh Files, who's sniffing for another podium finish. That's the contact between the pair. That's the moment that they touch. Potti has no real option. He was running out of road there, so had to take to the inside, but will have to give the position back. But in the meantime, things have changed behind. Files has got past Abreu, so that position can't be switched. And there's contact between Abreu and Azcona. So just when I was saying that Azcona was playing a fairly steady game and looking at the bigger picture, he takes a lunge and could have gone very badly for the young Spaniard, but he gets away with it. Lessen, though, is now right up behind Azcona. So then, Venet from Potty for now, but will he be getting a penalty for cutting the chicane? 94 and 16 are under investigation. Chris Richard and Nicola Baldan. Oh, and there's contact again. Well, that's a big connection with the barriers. A big shunt. And that's Benjamin Lessen. 2 non-finishes for him, but that's a much bigger shunt this time. No surprise that the safety car is already deployed. And coming through the Ascari chicane, it's the Peugeot of Abreu that makes contact with Lessen's Honda and sends Lessen's into the barrier. Let's take another look at it. And there is the contact, and Lessen is shunted unceremoniously off into the barriers. That looked a really heavy shunt for Benjamin Lessen in the Autodisc Racing by THX Honda. Now that was the moment that Azcona had a go at Abreu. So once again, safety car out on track. Happily, Ben Lessen is out of the car with the marshals and must be wondering what on earth has happened this weekend. Didn't finish race 1 because of a puncture, didn't finish race 2 because of contact. And 88, Maxime Potty and Francisco Abreu. That incident is already under investigation, so the stewards will have a fair amount to look at after this race as the marshals move in to clear Ben Lessen's car. The clock's still ticking, less than 6 minutes of this race, plus 1 lap remaining. Jean Calvinet still leads from Maxime Potty. Josh Files, he was surprised to have been on the podium in race 1. I would suspect he'd be staggered to be on the podium in race 2. But interestingly, Tashi is just behind Files. 6:30 and 23, surprise, surprise. Ben Lessen is 6:30, 23 is Abreu. So no surprise at all that that's been called to the stewards. But as I was saying, Files currently ahead of Tashi. And will the pair switch positions? Although, will a couple of extra points help Tashi? I suspect not in the great scheme of things. Peter Turting is P5 at the moment. Mikel Azcona is P6, ahead of Abreu, Richard, Rhys Barr, who's another driver who's had more than his fair share of bad luck this season. An engine change yesterday meant he started race 1 from the back of the grid. As we look once again at this incident, and Ben Lessen, very heavy contact with the barriers there. And what will the stewards have to say about that? Both cars going for the same piece of track. Tricky to call, I wonder. The more times I see it, I just wonder if that was a racing incident, but stewards may see things differently, particularly when they see the onboards from the cars around that incident. Danny Cruz at the moment is P10, but I don't think Danny Cruz has taken his drive-through yet. Giovanardi is P11. And the incident between Abreu and Azcona is under investigation. Good grief, I can't remember the last time we had this many incidents. I'm pleased to say that the marshals have done their work. The Lessen car is on its way back to the pits, and the safety car will be coming in this lap. But bear in mind that we've just started lap 9, and so they'll have to drive around most of this track, probably 80% of this track, before they're racing once again. So, firstly, here's the incident between Azcona and Abreu. That's the incident at the top of your screen, 25 and 23. And then later on the same lap, Abreu up against Lessen. So then, let's just recap the positions. There'll be a little over 2 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining by the time the cars come around the Parabolica next time. Jean Calvinet leads Maxime Potty. Josh Files is 3rd. Attila Tashi 4th. Peter Turting 5th. Mikel Azcona 6th. Francisco Abreu, pole sitter, remember, P7. Chris Richard, 8th. Rhys Barr, 9th. Danny Cruz, 10th, but having still to take his penalty. Fabrizio Giovanardi, 11th. Ollie Taylor, 12th. Martin Rieber, 13th. Jose Manuel Sapag from Argentina, 14th. Danny Nage, a distant 15th. A weekend to forget for Danny. Salvatore Tavano, we've barely mentioned, in the Matt Gray Cupra, is 16th. DNF yesterday. Stefanovski, 17th. Davidovski, 18th. Nicola Baldan in 19th. Giovanni Altoe, 20th. Capellari is 21st. And of the 28 cars that started, just those 21 are now still running. So 7 non-finishers so far. The safety car puts his foot down. And so we will be racing once again with, as I said a moment ago, just under, in fact, 2 minutes plus 1 lap of this race remaining. And bearing in mind the laps are around 2 minutes, we have got 2 laps remaining of this second race in TCR Europe here at Monza. Off they go once again. So Jean-Carl Venet manages the restart. Maxime Potti goes with him, as does Files, Tashi, Peter Turting, Mikael Azcona. There he is with Abreu right up behind him. Abreu pulls alongside the Cupra. This could get messy again going into the chicane. And Abreu just noses ahead. So Abreu takes 6th place for Azcona, but Azcona, I suspect, will be happy enough with the points. That was Ollie Taylor you saw briefly. And indeed, Danny Cruz has taken his drive through this time. So Giovanardi moves up into the points. The Alfa now in 10th place. Ollie Taylor in the same position in which he finished race 1, P11 at the moment. Can he get into the points, I wonder? Turting alongside Abreu. So Abreu now having a go for 5th place from Peter Turting. And through goes Files. Bizarrely and remarkably and slightly sideways. Josh Files muscles his way past Maxime Potti, as does his teammate. Attila Tashi now up into 3rd, so the 2 Hondas running together. Will Files move over and let his teammate take the additional points? Because Files is out of the running for the Europe title, and it's a tall order for Tashi. Now, was there contact? But we did see Files go sideways through Lesmo earlier. Through Ascari then. So Venet having opened up a 1.3 second lead now because of the shenanigans behind him. And Abreu gets a stop-go, a 10-second stop-go for Francisco Abreu. As Rhys Barr, that is, scrapping with Giovanardi. So they come around through the Parabolica for the penultimate time. They're now on the final lap. Jean-Carl Venet leads from Josh Files. I think if I'd have told him that an hour or 2 ago, he'd have said I was barking mad. But Josh Files, 3rd yesterday, currently 2nd, ahead of his teammate Attila Tashi. Tashi, though, scrapping with Maxime Potti for 3rd, the final podium position. Behind them, Peter Turting, Abreu. You saw Danny Cruz, Chris Richard and Rhys Barr in the 2 of the target competition cars. As Azcona, that is, still in the hunt for points. Venet doing exactly what he needs to do. And Files, I don't think, is in a position to help Tashi here. Tashi's got his own problems holding off Maxime Potti. And then Abreu will get the penalty at the end because, of course, he's now unable to take the stop-go because they're on the final lap. So he will take a penalty after the race. So Azcona will finish 5th. Turting will be 6th. Chris Richard will be 7th. Giovanardi will be 8th. Rhys Barr will be 9th. And Ollie Taylor will pick up a point for finishing in 10th place. There is Taylor behind Barr. And Martin Rieber just outside the points. And we mentioned Capellari. So through the Ascari chicane for the final time. And Mikael Azcona will have extended his points lead at the head of the drivers' table. But Jean-Carl Venet has not put a wheel wrong all weekend. He was pipped in free practice 2 by Josh Files, which was a surprise to most, including Files. But quickest in FP1, quickest in qualifying, winner of race 1, and now the winner of race 2. The near perfect weekend for Jean-Carl Venet and the Lukoil Leopard Audi RS3 LMS that takes the checkered flag to win yet again here in Monza. 55 points for Jean-Carl Venet. And Josh Files staggered, I suspect, at second. Tashi finishes third, manages to hold off Potty. Abreu 5th, Azcona 6th, Terting 7th, Richard 8th, Giovanni 9th, Rhys Barr 10th, and Ollie Taylor in 11th. But remember, Abreu will get that penalty. And so Abreu will drop down the order. So from 5th onwards, everybody moves up a position. Wow. And just to confirm, by finishing ahead of Mikel Azcona, Attila Tashi will be presented with the TCR Swiss Trophy in half an hour or so. And Peter Terting, you see go through there, will finish in 6th, thanks to Abreu's penalty. And Terting run under the umbrella of Autodis Racing with Piro Sports, but coming under the umbrella of Target competition this weekend. Josh Files and Attila Tashi. Well, a surprise performance from the 2 Honda drivers, with Files telling us that he really didn't expect anything like that. And there indeed is confirmation. Car 23 has a 40-second penalty added, the equivalent of the 10-second stop-go. And so that will drop Abreu to 21st place on the order. And so just to confirm, behind Maxime Potty, Azcona moves up to 5th, Terting is 6th, Richard is 7th, Giovanardi is 8th, Rhys Barr is 9th, and Ollie Taylor from TCR UK. A very happy and successful first appearance in TCR Europe for Ollie. He'll be pleased with taking a point back, and he will also be doing the final round at Barcelona in the 3rd weekend of October. So we've had 2 incident-packed races here at Monza. This place always delivers drama, and it's done so in spades this weekend. But Jean-Carl Venet did exactly what he needed, what he had to do, and has taken the maximum 55 points away from Italy. And he's closed right up on the championship leader. So it all goes down to the wire. And remember, Azcona will be on home ground in Barcelona for the final round. But you have to say, as Venet makes sure to pick up as much debris as possible, we saw Azcona do the same yesterday, and he heads for the #1 board for the 2nd time this weekend. Jean-Carl Venet, the reigning TCR International champion, very much staking his claim that he's still in the fight for the TCR Europe title. So congratulations to JK, to the team, to the guys from Audi who've prepared this car. And Files comes through into the 2nd position space. In 3rd will be Attila Tashi, and just behind, you briefly saw the Audi RS3 DSG car of Giovanni Altoe, who will once again pick up the trophy for the best DSG finisher, even though we only have 1 DSG car here. There he is in the back of the shot, as the other cars filter through and head for Parc Fermé. JK has his helmet off, out come the radio earpieces, and they're waiting to talk to him. Come on! Josh Files very happy with that. Congratulations from Richard, his race engineer, from the guys from Hell Energy, KCMG, who've run the cars this weekend. Brilliant result for them. For Yas, who prepare the Hondas in front of their home fans. 2 cars on the podium. Big smile from Attila inside that helmet. And surprisingly enough, fastest lap of the race, second lap from Jean-Carl Venet. So let's head down to the pit lane then. Let's hear from our race winner again. Jean-Carl Venet is with Alfredo.
Mais je travaille pour les autres, donc. Jean-Carl Vernet, second win at Monza this weekend. You must be very happy.
Yeah, no, that was the target. Make the perfect weekend. 5 points in qualifying, winning both races. And we done it. I mean, we said it, we done it. As soon as I say something this year, I do it. So I should continue this way. But no, thanks very much to Audi, to WRT, Leopard and Lico. The car was really amazing. And no, good start. Much better start than yesterday. Able to go up front quite quickly, to don't be in the mess, let's say, being smart enough to avoid it, and no, it was good. I mean, the car was absolutely fantastic, and we used it correctly, and really happy, and good for the championship, and now we'll see. Now everything can happen in Barcelona.
Yeah, you are again placed in the fight.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. Let's see about the weight compensation, because we were pretty light this weekend. That's why also we were so quick. So it's gonna depend on that, and we have to work and try to win again, and make sure that the guy behind, maybe far behind, so I can come back faster on the championship.
For the time being, bravo and podium.
Thank you.
A very laid-back interview there. Thank you, Alfredo. Thank you, Jean-Carl. Let's get confirmation then of the result of this 12th round of TCR Europe. Jean-Carl Venet takes the victory by just under half a second from Josh Files, with Tashi, Potti, Adkonar, Terting, Richard, Giovanardi, Barr and Taylor rounding off the top 10 positions. And behind the point scorers, it's Sapag who misses out on his first appearance in Europe. The Argentinian finishes 11th ahead of Naj, Tavano, Reba, Stefanovski, Davidovski, Baldan, Altoe, Capillari and Cruz, with Abreu, as I said earlier, dropping to 21st. And then in total, 7 non-finishers. So bad luck to them, and commiserations as we just confirm I think the points positions. Indeed we do. Adkonar still leads, but the perfect weekend here at Monza means that Venet has catapulted himself into second place now, 19 points behind Adkonar and a point ahead of Borkovic, the frustrated Borkovic. Tashi is 43 behind, Naj is 50 behind, and as I did say earlier on, 25 points for victory and 5 points for pole position. So 55 points still on offer from Barcelona, as we remind ourselves of some of the highlights of race 2 here at Monza. So Venet does it again then. We head to the podium for the second time this weekend. And it'll be the sweet taste of champagne for Jean-Carl Venet. There is Attila Tashi to take the third place on the podium. It'll be Josh Files, there he is, who will be P2. Congratulations to his teammate. And then there is JK. Well done, guys. And a representative of the winning team, the Lukoil Leopard team as we get La Marseillaise. So there is Giovanni Altoe on the left of your screens, a regular visitor to the podium thanks to the DSG Trophy. Applause yet again then for Jean Calvinet. And for the winning team, not a bad haul of silverware from Italy for Josh Files. And Tashi mathematically still in contention for the driver's title, but it'll be a long shot, you have to say. From the reaction from Giovanni Altoe, I wonder if those trophies have been left in the sun. He certainly seems to be wincing from the contact with the metal. So congratulations to all of our podium finishers as they pose for the picture. And as the circuit commentator has just announced, next on the agenda is the champagne, and a little bit less gentlemanly than the ceremony yesterday, a lot more champagne being sprayed around. So then, that's the penultimate round of TCR Europe done and dusted. One more round remains, and that's on October the 20th and 21st in Barcelona. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.